Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Podium Picks. I am Sean Woodland alongside Tommy Marquez. We are inside the Working Against Gravity studios. And Tommy, we've picked, actually, we got to credit your mom gave us this one for this week. We're doing our favorite childhood cartoons. And once again, a loaded field. This was not easy.
Stacked field.
Yeah, this was really hard, man. Like I have I've plenty of honorable mentions and some that I wish I could have put on the podium, but I didn't. But before we get to that, we want to give credit to a company that is on both of our podiums as far as nutrition is concerned, and that is Working Against Gravity. And they have some really cool stuff going on right now. If you A, want to get just your nutrition dialed in, and B, if you want to learn more about how to become an actual nutrition coach.
Yes, they've got a variety of programs, whether it's their renowned online nutrition coaching service and program that pairs you one-on-one with your very own coach, and from there they help you build basically a custom nutrition plan, and building accountability through weekly check-ins, 24-hour response times, and unlimited messaging with your coach, which makes it great for someone who's struggled to find a diet that sticks or hasn't been able to find lasting results. I personally love it for situations like, somehow life throws me the curveball, where I just end up with the jar of Nutella in my hands.
How did this happen?
Physically in my hands, like I'm eating it by my fingers. And I got to figure out how to dig myself out of another situation. But beyond that, we're, whether you're an average Joe like myself or someone like Katrin David's daughter or Cole Sager, podium finisher or CrossFit Games champion like Katrin, they can help you customize your nutrition program to build sustainable nutrition habits. They also have an affiliate program that basically works with gym owners to be able to offer nutrition to their clientele, to kind of broaden their horizons as far as that's concerned, as well as their coaching program that basically helps you go through the same process that they go through to train their coaches to maybe pursue nutrition coaching as a career or side hustle as well. They've got a deal for all of our listeners. If you're interested in the online nutrition coaching program, which I can't speak highly enough about. I've been doing it for 4 years now. You go to workingagainstgravity.com, use the code ELITE50. You get $50 off your first month, and they're so confident that you'll be stoked on the results that after 90 days, they'll refund you down to the last penny if you're not 100% satisfied. So you get a money-back guarantee, and you can get a pretty sweet discount. They've never done discounts before they partnered with us. So it's a pretty unique opportunity, and I highly suggest you guys take a look at it.
Yeah, really happy to have Working Against Gravity on board as our presenting sponsor. Once again, workingagainstgravity.com, and use the code ELITE50, $50 off your first month. And as Tommy said, money back guarantee. Really nothing to lose. Everything to gain. Gains. What we're talking about.
Exactly.
What we like to do before we get to our podium picks here is we like to go through our Whoop group and pick some of our top performers in various categories. But this week, I guess we're going to pick top performers, but we're going from the bottom of the list. So we're going to go lowest day strain. So we're going to people who are really doing a good job of getting the recovery in and resting.
Yes, we're doing lowest day strain for today.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking, they're putting the rest in rest day, as if that were a single word. And I'm scrolling down. I'm down there right now. All right,
but this is good. This is people who are taking the recovery seriously.
Yes. Our bottom 10 and day strain. Mike Taylor, who is 0.0, but he's logged somehow.
All right.
Someone might want to check on Mike. He might be dead. Hopefully he's not, knock on wood. Kristen Barnes, 1.6. Nicole Scheschinger, 2.2. I hope I said that right. Dylan Mouzakis, 2.3. Eileen Rogers, 2.7. Oscar Perez, 2.8. David Williams, 2.8. Ollie T. There you go. So cool. You didn't even need a last name. 3.0. Christy Hesprick, 3.4. Let me see. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, one more. Katie Luznia, 3.4.
Wow. Man, so I want to know the recovery tips from those individuals, because I guess it's a lot of just like laying around and relaxing and sleeping, maybe some wobbly pops to help you put you in a nice, relaxed sort of state. I don't know.
Yeah. And you know, it's the crazy thing is all of them have a significant amount of calories burned. So they're really doing a good job.
That's good.
Of just hanging out, not doing anything crazy, and you know, making sure that they keep that heart rate down on the rest day. So
there you go.
Congrats, guys.
Well done. Okay. Yeah. If you guys want to get on our Whoop train or Whoop group, by the way, you want to go to whoop.com. That's WHOOP.com. You'll use the code TALKING15 and you will save 15% and start to optimize the way you train. You get yourself the Whoop Strap 3.0 and all that good stuff, and get on our Whoop group. Listen to our show. We'll tell you how to do all that. But really happy to have Whoop on board, and congratulations to all our top, I guess we could call it, recoverers or top day strain people, because they did a very good job of taking it easy. So we will, even though you're at the bottom of the list, you're at the top of our list today. All right, let's get into this week's podium picks, because I'm excited about this one. This was actually an idea from your mom.
Yes.
And it's a fantastic idea. Loved it.
Yep.
This is our top childhood cartoons. Now, this can be Saturday morning cartoons. I don't think they have those anymore. Which used to, I mean, that was Saturday morning used to be the best time in the world, or after school, before school, whatever, just your top cartoons. And this is another one, just like we had last time with video games, where I feel like we're going to get a good generational spread. I know all mine come from basically the 70s and 80s. I don't think I'm sure I don't have anything from the 90s. And I'm guessing yours are more 90s, sort of early 2000s.
Yeah. Basically all mine are from, I only have one in the 2000s.
Okay.
But everything else is like early mid 90s.
Okay. I think you started last time, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'll start this one this time. So, man, I left a lot off. Now, my spirit of the games, and this one isn't, you know, I don't think this is going to be a big surprise to anybody, but the spirit of the games for me is Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny and Friends. I mean, it was a Saturday morning staple, and it's actually one of my earliest childhood memories is listening. I was in the other room and I heard my father laughing, like belly laughing out loud. And I came into the room and he's watching, I think, Wiley Coyote. And it was one of those cartoons when I was a kid. I was like, when I was really young, I just didn't think it was that, you know, Looney Tunes, whatever. Yeah. The older I got, the funnier I thought it was. I mean, Wiley Coyote's hilarious. I mean, I've laughed out loud at that before. Marvin Martian is one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, just Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd and the whole crew, Daffy Duck, everybody. It was just, you can't go wrong with that crew. I mean, there's always there's so many classics in there. The barbershop one that was the Barber of Seville. I believe. I think that won an Academy Award.
That's my mom's. We were literally talking about this yesterday. We were sitting around. That this is when it started to come up, and my mom said that's her favorite cartoon.
There's another one. It's an opera one, and it's Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny, and you know, it's like kill the wabbit, kill the wabbit, kill the wabbit. What have I done? I've killed the wabbit.
There was one that I can't remember, but they're cooking somewhere, and somehow Bugs Bunny convinces, I think, Elmer Fudd to get into in the pan and into the, and he. Bugs Bunny, he always has a disguise and pretends he's someone else, and he's like some German chef. And I just remember he kept yelling out Hassenpfeffer.
Yes, I remember the Hassenpfeffer. Another one of my favorites was the Big Abominable Snowman. Remember him? I would love him and stroke him and call him George.
Which is a very clear of Mice and Men reference.
Oh, yeah, no question. But anyway, so spirit of the games for me is Looney Tunes. And I think for a lot of kids, that was a Saturday morning cartoon. So that was a Saturday morning staple. And I want to say it was early Saturday, like that kind of kicked things off for the rest of your great Saturday morning, where you would have your cereal and you would sit in front of the TV and you would watch Saturday morning cartoons.
Good foundation.
Oh, fantastic stuff. So spirit of the games for me, Looney Tunes. Now, this next one is a dark horse. It was going to be on my podium. This is probably top 3, but the reason I stuck it as my dark horse is because not a lot of people know about it. But it was my first foray into anime, so to speak.
Yes.
Actually, I'd take that back. Second, but I didn't realize it. But it's
accidental anime.
Yeah, because when I was one that didn't make it, there was a series called Battle of the Planets that was like late 70s for me, and that was from a show called Gotcha Man that came over. I watched that when I was like in preschool. Loved that show, but had no idea what I was seeing. But this next one, again, was a Japanese series from the 70s that got brought over. I wanted like early 80s. I think I was in like 3rd grade when this came out, so probably like 82, 83. and it's called Star Blazers.
Oh,
And it was a show in Japan. It was called Space Battleship Yamato. And it was the first time. So when I was a kid, all cartoons were pretty episodic. There were no sort of like bigger story arcs. You know, it was just like this episode, you had a problem and it got resolved and that was it. This was the first time that I can remember watching a show that was, I think the seasons were 25 episodes and it was a continuing story that was told over that. And for someone like me, who at that age was a huge science fiction fan and was just yearning for something bigger, this absolutely gave it to me. And there were there were 3 seasons that were released in the United States. Where I lived, we only got 2 of them. The third one was, I think, under a different company. Anyway, I loved it. I thought it blew my mind that you could have this show that had one story that took place over 25 episodes. And it's still one of the, I think, all-time classic anime series that came to the United States early on and sort of kicked off that craze. I think Gundam was another one that came over about the same time, but that wasn't shown where I live. But it's still being made now. They've gone back and remade the original 2 series and put a modern spin on them, and they're fantastic. So if you're looking for, if you're an anime fan and you're looking for a new series, go check out Space Battleship Yamato, the new one, 2199, I believe it's called, and 2202, because of the years it takes place. But yeah, it was fantastic, and it is a series that this in Japan came out, I think, before Star Wars, so I think it had an influence on that. But again, it was the first time for me that there was this longer series, and I remember talking about it with kids at school. Like, did you see it? What's going to happen next? And this guy, it was pretty involved for a kids show. I mean, they had to edit. I know they had to change some things because there was some violence there that for an American audience wasn't good. But so that's my dark horse, man. And I loved that show as a kid. Didn't miss an episode, and it was like must-see TV in the neighborhood. We were all talking about it.
Oh man,
so those are my 2. I got Spirit of the Games, Looney Tunes, and then my dark horse, Star Blazers.
All right.
So there you go.
Yeah. Okay. So I kind of went a different way with my Spirit of the Games here. So I have a younger brother that's 8.5 years younger than me. And so I got my batch of cartoons, and then the cartoons that I kind of carried that were a little bit more adult themed. And then I got another batch of cartoons with my brother in like what I would call like the silver age of Nickelodeon and some of those and Cartoon Network and stuff like that I love, but I wasn't as attached to. There's a ton, but there was one that, and I was literally just talking about it with my brother yesterday. There was one cartoon that he watched as he got a little bit older, that I watched, that I absolutely love, that I would still watch as of basically until it got canceled, but 10 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Maybe. And so it only ran 3 seasons. It's in a cartoon called Chowder.
I have never heard of this.
Yeah. So it ran on Cartoon Network. The series follows an aspiring young child named Chowder and his day-to-day adventures as a chef apprentice in Chef Mungdal's catering company.
Okay.
And Chowder, he has this like undying appetite, and he's generally a scatterbrain. And everyone in the entire show revolves around food and this catering business. And everyone on the show has a food name. So Chowder, Mungdal, Schnitzel, Truffles, Kimchi, Gazpacho, who's one of my personal favorite. He's a woolly mammoth storekeeper named Gazpacho. Panini, his kind of love interest. Gorgonzola, a young green rat apprentice for the candle maker, who's kind of just like an antagonist. Miss Endive, who's the main antagonist of the show. And then there's a ton of other ones that also show up at different times. And I don't know why. I love when you can tell that the writers of this show understand that, and this will be a theme in a lot of mine, that parents are watching along with their kids.
Yes.
So they throw in references and they throw in things for the adults that are beautifully woven in that kids wouldn't even think about. And that's what actually made me enjoy it. There was some, I don't want to say adult level jokes, but there was stuff in there that were just entertaining to me. And I just found generally funny. And me and my brother would always laugh about it. And one of my buddies, my same age, also got into it. And we used to joke about it all the time. There's there's this one character, Schnitzel. He's like a gigantic rock monster, and he's one of the chefs that work at the thing. But all he ever says is "rada, rada, 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 rada." And we used to always just joke about that, and and that was like kind of like our non sequitur like voice joke that we would do. But it's, oh man, I thought it was hilarious. It was excellent writing, and it was one of those ones I was like, oh yeah, this is actually pretty good. Right. And I think it debuted in 2007, so I was in college when it came out, and my brother was 10, 11, 12-ish. So at that time he was 12. So he was just getting a little bit older and kind of out of the main cartoons phase, but it was still on. And it caught me off guard, and I definitely
all right.
was like, all right.
I got to check. I've never heard of that. I'll have to check it out.
For me, it's the bonding cartoon for me and my brother a little bit.
Cool.
So there's a couple of them, but that one really stands out as one I genuinely enjoy and would watch to this day.
Okay.
My dark horse is an anime one. Adapted from an original manga series, is Dragon Ball Z.
Yes. No, I'm very familiar with that one.
Yes. And it is the follow-up series to Dragon Ball. And for those of you who don't know, the entire Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, Dragon Ball Super all follow the life of Goku, who is this race called Saiyan, and him and his collection of friends, and they basically defend Earth from various threats. And to me, this was the step up. So Dragon Ball Z came to the United States in 1996, I believe. And I was 10. And that started to bridge the gap of like, all right, this is a little bit older theme, and like the fighting and the gravity of like total destruction of Earth and stuff like that was the themes that just resonated a little bit more. And there were some things from Dragon Ball Z that just became like just going Super Saiyan, like the concept of going Super Saiyan and just like energy blasts and your hair going, changing colors was just awesome. And they had the art of drawing out episodes over the course of like 3 shows. It's like the content in that episode would maybe fill 2 shows, but they would make it last 5 because they would do these really intense like inner monologue type things when they're like charging up and like evaluating each other's power. And there's a lot of these weird little like nuances that I think are a little bit more common in anime and manga and stuff like that. But that they were able to adapt it to a U.S. audience that made it extremely popular, and it's a huge franchise here in the United States. It's
still going, isn't it? Like, or not?
So Dragon Ball, there was GT went to, I think it was like late 90s. I think Dragon Ball Super is still technically going on in the United States. It was up until maybe 2018. And then you had all these. I mean, you had all these different characters. They all had their special powers. They all had their special moves. Yeah. And there was all these different themes about like, Goku's like your typical hero guy. He's a little bit aloof and he doesn't quite seize the day. And there's his rival who's like the hardworking guy, but doesn't quite have all the talent. Vegeta. The other day, I couldn't remember his son Gohan for some reason. But yeah, it was great. And there was a ton of characters. And I used to absolutely love it. In middle school, we would watch it all the time. And that was like our big, like, you got to keep up to date on the latest Dragon Ball Z, especially the Cell games when they had to fight Cell. Like that sequence of episodes probably lasted 2 more months than it needed to, but it was still phenomenal.
All right. So we have Chowder and Dragon Ball Z.
Chowder is the only one that was in the 2000s.
Okay. So now we're on the podium.
Yes.
So for me, this is another 80s staple, and this was an after-school cartoon for me, and this really sort of kicked off my love of giant robots fighting things. So this is Voltron.
Yes.
I think I want to say I was in 4th grade, so when it started, 4th or 5th grade. I was still in elementary school when this came out, and again, it was another thing that I had never seen before. Even though that there weren't like grander story arcs with this one, and basically it was the same episode over and over.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see something where it was, 5 separate things came together to form this giant robot, and then they would fight stuff. And I think for whatever reason, I loved it. And I know there was another Voltron too. There was like a vehicle Voltron. Some people might not remember that. They had two of them. I don't count that one. I'm all about the lion Voltron. I have not watched, I take that back. I watched the first couple episodes of the new Voltron series on Netflix. Didn't really get into it. Might have to give that another look. But Voltron was like the first time where you saw this thing and you wanted, like, I gotta have that thing for me. Like that, I get all these lions and I want to put them together. I want to be Voltron. It was cool if you got it. And I remember my dad got me and my brother each a Voltron one time. He found them, like the big die-cast one. And it was cool, but then you had like no enemies to fight. Like, you were just like, and then you put them together and that was it. But it was still pretty awesome. But that was another must-see TV episode. I remember talking about it with my friends at soccer practice at school. But yeah, when you look back on it, you're like, every episode was basically the same thing. They would send this row beast which what the enemies were called, to the planet to try to take down Voltron. And then the Voltron would be losing the fight and they would form the sword and then they would win. It's like, well, why didn't they just form Voltron right off the bat? They try to take them on as 5 individual lions. And then like, I have an idea. Let's build Voltron. All right, let's fight. And then the final thing was like, let's form the sword. Well, why didn't you do that right out the beginning? And it was funny. Like I think there's an homage to that in Pacific Rim.
Yes, absolutely.
Where they're like, and I remember I watched it. I saw it with Charlie. Like, we have one more option. What's that? And they press the sword button. Like, why'd you do that to begin with? You wasted all this time fighting, and then even as a kid, I'm like, why don't you just whip the sword out right off the bat? Bam, you're done. Go home. Like
you're 100% right, because I remember watching Pacific Rim. I'm like, that's totally a Voltron reference.
Yeah, which I love that movie, by the way.
Wait, we only have one more option, and it's the best one.
Exactly. Why did you do that right off the bat? Could have saved it's a whole lot of death and destruction. One hack, we're done.
Yep.
But Voltron was the best, man. And it was it was after school, you go home, we'd put our bags down, get in front of the TV, watch Voltron. I think it came on like 4. So I had enough time to have a little snack, do some homework. Bam, watching Voltron. So Voltron is my number 3. And that's I think that is the second of 3. I'm a little foreshadowing. Second of 3 anime derived series here.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Oh man, this one was tough. So
you're agonizing over this.
This is tough. So I Nickelodeon started original animated content in 1991.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, that's when they first started bringing out their own stuff. And that is what I would consider what was the golden age of Nickelodeon, is when they had their first few series. There was
that still like you can't do that on television? Was that
kind of? I think
or
so.
Was that after that?
Yeah, I don't.
Anyway,
yeah,
that was a cartoon.
And so, all right, I'm gonna pick. I was deciding between two of their 3 original series that they came out, and the one I'm gonna go with is called Doug.
Yeah, I know Doug. Okay,
yeah.
Yep.
So it follows the school age boy Douglas Yancey Doug Funny, and
I didn't know that was his full name.
He's the shy kind of, self-conscious, gullible, 11, 12-year-old kid, and he's navigating the social things of school and life and all those things. He's got a neighbor, Mr. Dink, who's always creating things in the he's a tinkerer, and everything he always makes or buys is very expensive, Douglas. Always very expensive. And he has his best friend is Skeeter Valentine, Mosquito Valentine. He goes by Skeeter. Patricia Mayonnaise is his love interest. Patty Mayonnaise. Roger Klotz is the tough kid in school, that always bullies him. He's got a dog named Pork Chop, and there's a handful of other ones as well. But I loved because it ran 4 or 5 seasons, and then it went to ABC and it got picked up, and I felt like I watched that show like just before I went through those same stages, So like Doug was like, okay, I got to watch this guy go through all these weird adolescent things, and then I did it too. One of my favorite things is they had this band. His favorite band was called The Beats.
The Beats,
yeah, which is like kind of like the Beatles,
Gotcha.
But there's some of their songs were actually like kind of good and catchy,
okay.
And like so one was called Killer Tofu.
Right.
I Need Mo Allowance. Shout Your Lungs Off. Where's My Sock? Oh my gosh, there was another one. I'm kidding. It's crushing me. Killer Tofu was the big one. Zombie Girlfriend, I think, was one. My Foot's Asleep. I sneezed on my face was one that was mentioned, I think. And then like there was Doug had his own version, one called Banging on a Trash Can, but it was like his version of a beat song. But yeah, I'm my buddy still has a shirt that says The Beats on it. And
nice.
Yeah, it's an awesome throwback. But that was just like it was like a very classic like coming of age cartoon with just this average guy, and there's nothing too stand out about it, but they tackled a lot of stuff, whether it was bullying or trying to fit in and social navigation, things like that. And that one always stuck with me. I'll reveal what the one I was battling with, but that one has had a lasting impact.
Okay, on me. So number 3 for you is Doug. Bless you. That brings me to my number 2. Now, this cartoon, when I look back on it, was just essentially a 22-minute toy commercial, but it was awesome, and it is responsible for one of the greatest days of my childhood. So it is G.I. Joe.
All right.
So G.I. Joe, growing up, was, it was so cool because this was another show that most of the episodes were standalone.
Yeah,
they were. But then they would have these sort of longer arc stories that took place over 5 episodes. So Monday through Friday, you would have this continuing story. So it was like to be continued what was going on. And I remember they had I think they had 3 or 4 of them that I can remember off the top of my head. And, of course, I had all the toys. And my brother was a young entrepreneur at the time, was like 8 years old. How old would he have been? 9, maybe 10, maybe 9 or 10. And he collected coins. He had a coin collection. And he went and he had some good ones, and he sold some of his coin collection and used the money that he got from the coin collection to buy that aircraft carrier.
Wow.
The big one, like the 5-foot one. And that's one of the other great days of my life when he brought that thing home. And we just sat we shared a room all day, man. My friend Ben came over, brought his stuff. Like that's all we did. Anyway, so he had that because he bought it with his coin collection. But we had and it's still, I mentioned it in our childhood toys, still one of my favorite, like the Sky Striker, the F-14, still one of my favorite toys of all time came from that. And there were so many great toys and vehicles that came from the G.I. Joe world. But when I was 11 years old, they were in the local TV station, I think it was Channel 31 in Sacramento, was doing this contest. It was called their Hero of the Day, right? So they were running, it was one of the G.I. Joe miniseries. So it's a 5-episode arc. And they did this thing where this was back in the day, where you would send in a postcard with your name and your best friend's name on it. And if you won, you got like a bunch of stuff, and your best friend got a bunch of stuff. So me, being, why don't I double up, put my brother down as my best friend, and I won. And I remember I was on a class field trip at the time, and my dad, I called home that night. My dad's like, "Hey, you got a bunch of calls from your friends, said that you just won some contest on Channel 31. I'm like, "Oh man, I won this!" Just going nuts. And so I'll never forget these 2 boxes. I was 11 years old. My brother's 9. Show up at our house, and they're just full of G.I. Joe toys. Like you've always, you always dreamed about. Man, I wish I had more than one tank, or I wish I had more than one snowcat. And we did. We got the same things. We had this fleet of stuff. It was incredible. It was just one of the best. And again, my friend Ben came over, one of my best friends growing up, still one of my best friends now. And he had all his stuff, and we had a ball. It was amazing, so that was G.I. Joe was, it was just must see TV again. Another one that you talked about at lunch at school.
Yep.
I was really disappointed in the live action movie, to be honest with you. I was really looking forward to it. It wasn't my cup of tea, but yeah, man, I'm still a fan. I still talk about it. If that stuff came out again, man, I would buy it all, and I would use my son as an excuse, and I'd be like, "Hey, come on, we're going outside and play G.I. Joe. I'm tired of playing G.I. Joe, Dad. You're going to play G.I. Joe, and you're going to love it. All right." So G.I. Joe is number 2 for me.
Don't I ever get to use the Sky Striker?
You'll get to use it when you're older. Now enjoy this helicopter.
Yep. Oh man, that's fantastic. I definitely had a ton of G.I. Joes.
Yeah.
Oh man,
they're great.
That's
toys,
a great
man.
one. I didn't even think of that. That was great. All right. So my number 2 was another so I picked 2 out of the 3 original series that debuted on Nickelodeon. And I would say that my number 2 is the first. You know, sometimes you get to watch something, you're like, I probably shouldn't be allowed to watch this.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Ren and Stimpy for me.
Oh, I love Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah. Ren and Stimpy was...
You fat, bloated idiot.
It was like, I mean, Ren and Stimpy, and for many, it only ran 5 seasons.
They're bringing it back.
Yeah, they're bringing it back. It follows Ren Hook, who is a psychotic chihuahua, sociopathic chihuahua, and Stimson J. Cat, aka Stimpy, a good-natured but kind of dumb cat, and their hijinks together. And man, it was the writers. You can tell they definitely were. It was like an adult theme type, and they got into a bunch of hot water with Nickelodeon all the time. They had to alter episodes to exclude things like religion and politics and alcohol. I remember. So they had an episode called Powdered Toast Man.
Yes, I love Powdered Toast Man.
And they had to have a cross removed from the Pope's hat.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so and they credited him, the Pope, to the. They changed it to the man with the pointy hat, just to avoid it. I mean, they had. Oh man, I'm trying to think. I think there was a bunch of stuff that they had to change, but there are still some things that stand out to me today, like the wrestling episode.
One of my favorites.
Phenomenal.
Mad Dog Hoek and Killer Cadogan, right?
Yeah,
it's so good. I want to scream the loud, funny words.
And then he gets him by taking the bunion out of his foot. Oh, but it was like irreverent and kind of gross, and like the animation did not shy away from things. I mean, there was the episode where Stimpy has a fart, and
that was the banned one, right? That never made it on air.
Yeah, it never made it on air. Where he tried to find his fart. And
Son of Stimpy.
Yeah. There was the game that because they would run some ads, and there was a game called Don't Whiz on the Electric Fence.
That was an episode.
Yeah.
It was wasn't it when Ren's cousin came, Cousin Ollie, right?
Yep. And I just remember, don't whiz on the electric fence.
That's right. Oh, you saw you whiz on the electric fence.
By Blammo.
And then Log.
Oh man. I remember all the words that rolls downstairs, alone or in pairs, rolls over your neighbor's dog. It spits on your back, it's great for a snack. It's log, log, log.
It's log, it's log, it's big, it's heavy, it's wood. It's log, it's log.
It's better than bad, it's good.
Everyone wants a log. Come on and get your log. You're gonna love it, log.
So good. So good.
Brilliant.
It was just a log. It was literally a log. It was phenomenal. And it was just like, you could tell that these were some these were some showrunners from the early 90s that were probably listening to grunge and huffing on some of Satan's cabbage and
the wacky lettuce
and just jazz spinach and just writing a cartoon.
Man,
it was phenomenal.
I loved. I had a shirt. I had the Mad Dog Hoek and Killer Cadogan shirt with the two. That's one of my favorite episodes. Mr. Horse, what you think about that fall? Nope. No, sir. Didn't like it. Not one bit.
The literally yesterday we were going through cartoons. I think my uncle brought up Ren and Stimpy, and in unison, me, my mom, and my dad were like, "Stimpy, idiot!" It just, my gosh, it was phenomenal.
Yeah, that was. I think you hit the nail on the head. That was like the first cartoon. Beavis and Butthead is up there as well. But you're like, as a kid, should I be watching this?
Yeah,
something weird going on here.
I mean, Stimpy took his nose off and used it as a coin purse. And just all this crazy. Oh man,
exactly. The shaven yak day.
Yes,
yak shaving day. Yak shaving day. He shows up in his magical canoe and he leaves you yak shavings. Who thought of that?
It's literally I'm like, how could you come up with that?
Good stuff. All right, that's a good one. Okay, so now we're at number one for me, and number one. This is I go back to my desire as a kid to see things that were a bigger world and gave you long story arcs. So this one came over to the United States. Is another anime series, and it was 3 separate series that they mashed into one giant series, I think, in order to get it into syndication. So it was a mix of the Japanese names were Macross, I think it was Dimensional Cavalry, Southern Cross, and Genesis Climber Mosquito, and they called it Robotech in the United States.
Yeah.
And this was one where I think it came out, again, I want to think 11, 12 years old, and blew me away because it was this giant story arc that took place over, I don't know, 30 years or something that all three series spanned. It had multi-generations of characters. Like the second series was the daughter of two of the characters from the first. And then the third series, they harkened back to the stuff that happened in the very first series. And it featured, giant robots that transformed into planes. That was cool. And for a kid, at that age, I wasn't used to watching a show where characters died. That was for an 11-year-old kid. That was pretty traumatic. And, they had characters that would die, and you would, like, as a kid, you'd feel that. And I think it happened on a couple of occasions. I want to say there was two characters I can think of right off the top of my head who died during the series. And, I'm actually surprised that in the United States, they let that fly. But I remember, like, that was the first time I had to kind of deal with that in a show, and it was really well written. It still holds up today. I mean, if you watch it, the animation is not going to be what you're used to seeing now, but think 35 years ago or whatever it was, it's still, it was really good. Like, it was unlike anything we had seen at the time. And I remember, buying the models with my brother. You could go to these, I don't want to say knockoff toy stores, but they're like independent toy stores that would bring in, stuff from overseas, and they would have these models, and you could buy them, and we'd put them together, and we loved them. And, it is apparently being made into a live action movie. There are efforts to do it because of the popularity of Transformers. I know that those efforts are still ongoing. I don't know what the current pandemic has done to those, but I have heard it is still going to happen. But I can remember, man, just like being so into the show, and there was a series of books that came out that kind of kept the series going. So like my dark horse, it was one where I just loved bigger stories and bigger worlds, and this one definitely gave it to you. And it was kind of cool how they took three separate series that really had nothing to do with each other and were able to weave them together into one cohesive story. So yeah, man, that one will always be one that I actually went back and watched it. I think it's still on Netflix and Amazon Prime. I think you can still watch it. And like I said, there's some things that don't hold up. Like, the animation is not what you're used to seeing today, but the story itself is still pretty cool. You could be like, man, I can see if they modernize this a little bit, it could be pretty awesome. So I have a lot of great memories of watching that with my brother. He was really into it as well, maybe even more into it than I was. But my friends were all into it, and we would, again, talk about it all the time. There was a comic book store, Comics and Comics, doesn't exist anymore. We would go to, and we'd buy like some of the original Japanese manga it was based on, and check that out, and posters and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it was really neat. It was a good part of my childhood, man, watching that show. I think it was after school. Yeah, after school. So that's my number one. Robotech gets my top spot on the podium.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, my top pick is one that, man, I mean, it eventually basically became a machine as far as, like, toys, movies, stuff like that in the 90s. And it was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh yeah.
The original animated series.
That was a good one.
It started in 87 and it ran 10 seasons. And then it was in syndication a bunch. But I remember my dad would actually record episodes on VHS, because I can't remember why. For some reason, I would miss them, and he would record them, and then I would watch them at the end of the day. Cool. And so he would go out of his way to record my favorite episodes and stuff like that. But man, oh my gosh, I used to love the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I wanted to be Michelangelo so bad because he was the fun, goofy one, and he wielded nunchucks. Eventually it was changed to a grappling hook, I think, at one point, but he was the party animal guy, which explains a lot in my college years. But he speaks in surfer slang. So as a California kid, that made a lot of sense, because even though they were in the sewers of New York, he was the California kid. Ninja Turtles were four turtles that were basically raised as his sons by Master Splinter, Hamato Yoshi, who I believe the original Japanese one, I think, is different, but the origin story is he's a human and he gets banished and he comes to New York and lives in the sewers, and he gets these 4 turtles. They get covered in ooze, and they become these mutant turtles with humanoid form. And he trains them in ninjutsu because he was a master in Japan and before he got banished and usurped by who ends up being the antagonist, which was his apprentice
Shredder. Right?
Shredder, yeah. And then because he was exposed to rats, he becomes a rat, and the name of Master Splinter. And then they basically live in the sewers. They made living in the sewers cool.
Yeah.
And they love pizza, which was even better because you're a kid. You're like, I like pizza. And they fight as ninjas, and they're all color coded. Michelangelo had the orange bandana. Raphael was the red bandana, and he had a pair of sais. Donatello was the smart one, and he had purple, and he had a bow staff.
Yep.
Raphael was kind of the moody, kind of grumpy one. I guess the negative one, if you will. He was like the yin to Michelangelo's yang. Leonardo, who's he wields 2 katanas, swords, and he's kind of like the de facto leader. He's got the blue, the color that all the kids love. Orange was my favorite color growing up too, and I think it's largely in part to Michelangelo, and it's still my favorite color. But yeah, I was always the weird kid that didn't like blue, green, or red. Because every young boy had those 3 favorites. But yeah, and they had the news reporter April O'Neil, who worked for Channel 6. She was always reporting on the turtles. At one point, Casey Jones was one of their guys. He was
cool because he had the hockey mask.
Mask, yep. They ended up having 2 kind of bad guys that they would always fight: Bebop and Rocksteady, who were a rhino and a croc. No, that was a different one. Oh my God, what was one? Was a rhino and oh my good. Rocksteady was a rhino. Bebop. This is killing me.
Yeah, let's see if we can find this.
A warthog.
That's right.
He's a warthog. Yep.
Okay. Good save.
I was trying to remember what I was like. I always remember Rocksteady because he's like a rhinoceros. And then at one of my favorite ones, there was a Cajun crocodile that they had to fight at one point. He would always say, "I'm going to make turtle gumbo," and I always thought that was the funniest thing ever. And then they also fought Krang, who was from Dimension X. Who's this guy who's like disembodied from his body. His brain is in the belly of this big muscly guy. Oh man, it was phenomenal. I love that show so much, and I would always running around just screaming "turtles in a half shell," turtle power, and like kicking and punching things. And yeah, that was the best. That was like my favorite. I remember my childhood toys, the talking turtles was one of my favorites. Oh man, killer.
Yeah, that was a good series. It was based on a graphic novel, wasn't it? Like a comic book. Yeah.
And they came out with live action ones that were actually pretty good. The number 2, Secret of the Ooze, is like
had Vanilla Ice in it.
It did. Yeah.
I mean, go ninja, go ninja, go
ninja.
I mean, that was money back in the day. We had Vanilla Ice in the movie.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Even the I think it was number 3, Turtles in Time, when they go back to Japan.
That was a good one.
That was still a good.
I think I saw that one in the theater too.
Yeah, that was with Kate. That was when Casey Jones came into the live action one.
I remember that one.
Yep.
All right. So now what didn't? So I got some that I absolutely wanted to put on my list, but I didn't. I mean, Transformers was one of them. Dungeons and Dragons, the old Saturday morning cartoon, which is a classic. Super Friends, love that one. The X-Men from the 90s, but I kind of ruled that out because I was in high school when that came out.
That was on mine, but I think I gained more appreciation for it going back watching it later once I got older.
And then another one I almost put on was the animated, and again I was in college, I think, so I kind of ruled it out. Was the Tick, the original?
The Tick.
Just love that spoon.
I forgot about that.
That was the best when he got that capybara. He thought it was a dog and he named it Speak. So awesome. Deflator Mouse and such a great show.
That's good.
I was trying to think and then Muppet Babies. That was one.
Muppet Babies, yeah, that was a great one. Let's see. I had some of the So there was the other third like core Nickelodeon one was Rugrats.
Yep.
I love that one. It was right up there. It was just off my list. So obviously there was a kid named Tommy, so kind of identified with Tommy Pickles. They had great one-liners. So like some like adult ones that made you think that the babies were more aware than you thought. There was an episode where they're camping out in the backyard, and they were afraid of what they thought were Sasquatch, but they called it Satchmo. And then when they were like, oh, it's the Satchmo, and one of the kids goes, the trumpet player? And then like how does that kid know who Satchmo the trumpet player is? And they just had like little like one-offs like that. The next generation that my brother was really into as well, Hey Arnold, the Angry Beavers. I love the Angry Beavers. That was really close. Then there was if you went to the other channel, Rocko's Modern Life was another Nickelodeon one. I love Rocko's Modern Life. That was a really good one too. Tailspin was a good one. So there was I think it was CW, maybe Warner Brothers, but there was the afternoon lineup of Gargoyles and Darkwing Duck. Yeah, that went back to back.
No, wait, was Launchpad McQuack in Tailspin, or was that?
I think he was,
because he was originally in DuckTales, right? And they spun off with his own. Maybe I don't know. I can't remember.
Street Sharks was another one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones.
So many good memories, man. Just watching. I miss watching Saturday morning cartoons and after school cartoons.
Put down a box of cereal.
The best. It's the only reason you would get up early on a Saturday and watch your cartoons. So yeah, those are good. I know. I know we left a lot off. Dungeons and Dragons almost made my list, but I didn't watch it as religiously as the other ones. But that was a classic. I'd like to see them bring that one back. All right, that was good. That was fun.
So I just looked it up on the beats from Doug. Actually have music on Spotify. So,
I guess we know what you're listening to this evening.
I'm rocking out to I need Mo allowance on my way home.
All right. Well, listen, I would love to hear what some of the favorites of our audiences are out there, because you guys always come up with some and I look at them, I'm like, oh, how did I forget that one? So definitely let us know what your podium picks for your best childhood cartoons are in the comments. So that's going to do it for us today. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you joining us. For Tommy Marquez, I'm Sean Woodland, and we will talk to you later.